Happy Valentine's Day. For most of you, your feed is full of roses, chocolates, and forever promises. But for a lot of people listening right now, today isn't a celebration, it's a performance. It's a day of walking on eggshells, wondering if your wrong reaction to a gift is going to trigger a fight, or if the person who says they love you is going to use that love as a weapon. Today, on The Real, Raw, and Uncut, we aren't doing the fairy tale, we're doing the truth. We're talking about the bruises that makeup can't hide and the control that isn't protection. This is the real, raw, and uncut truth about domestic violence. If you're in the thick of it, listen closely. You aren't crazy. You aren't alone. And this, today, is not what love looks like. Let's get into it. And today, we're going to go into a space that most people try to look away from. We're talking about the fear that happens behind closed doors, domestic violence. This isn't a woman issue or a private matter. It's a systematic poison. Today, we're going to strip away the stereotypes. We're looking at the psychology of control and the uncomfortable truth about why people stay and why some people refuse to let their partners grow. Whether you're the one hurting, the one being hurt, or the one watching it happen from the sidelines, this episode is for you. No filters, no apologies, just the raw truth. Now, we like to think we know what a victim looks like. We think we know what a monster looks like as well. But today, we're going uncut. We're talking about the side of domestic violence that doesn't make the headlines. The psychological traps, the male victims, and the cycle that keeps people stuck. Now, there is a gender where it's 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men. So when I say 1 in 3 women, you have 3 women, and one of them will experience some form of physical violence by their intimate partner in their lifetime. And when I say 1 in 4 men, you have 4 men, and one of them will experience some form of physical violence by their intimate partner in their lifetime. You also have 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men that will experience severe violence like hitting, burning, strangling, and death. Now, the age ranges between 18 and 34 that are, I guess I'll say, like the high risk. Statistically, Black women experience domestic violence at a rate of 35% higher than white women. Also, domestic violence accounts for 15% of all violent crimes, yet it is still the most unreported, which will make you think if 15% if domestic violence is 15% of all violent crimes that has been reported, just the reports that hasn't been reported. So I'm going to give you an example of when there's a male aggressor and when there's a female aggressor. Now, when the male is the aggressor, their motivation is driven by control. They need to dominate, they want to isolate to maintain the power over their partner. Now, the male on female violence is more than likely to result in severe injury, hospitalization, or death. It's like with a male, the violence is just one part of the larger system of control. Usually, the violence comes in when they want financial control, physical control, or emotional control over the female. Now, when the female is the aggressor, their violence is more than often a reactive violence, like they're responding to prior abuse from the male's um, abuse. And they're driven by high emotional um, frustration rather than like a plan for control. Usually, when females are abusive, they're more verbal and emotional abusive. They could be physically abusive as well, and which is they may slap or they may throw objects and things of that manner. So we're going to talk about also the barriers for men, like the male victims that are less likely to report abuse because of something that's called the masculinity trap, which is the fear of being laughed at by police or their peers, or being judged by society for letting a woman beat them. So it's kind of like, them being abused by a female, but they don't want to call the police because it makes them feel less of a man, or they don't want to tell their family or friends or vent to them about it because even though they're being abused, whether it's physically, mentally, or emotionally, they'll feel less of a man if they talk to someone about it or tell on the woman or go to court for it or press charges. Now, and usually it stems from emotional and verbally abuse. But sometimes in the Black community, because we often suffer from that as growing up, it could be as children, it could be being bullied in high school, where cursing is something that's normal in the Black community. We may not even realize that we're being verbally and emotionally abused. And usually when that happens, that's like a form of grooming before the physical violence starts. Now, another female on male abuse is called the silent victim. Now, this is when you have women who are aggressors that often threaten to use the legal system against them. For an example, they'll say, I'll tell the cops you hit me, and they'll believe me first. And therefore, the man often falls into the abuse of the female doing whatever the female asks because they don't want to be sent to jail. Because 9 times out of 10, the police will believe the woman over the man. Now, another example of a male on female abuse is physical intimidation. They don't even have to hit a woman. It's just a man's physical presence of, he may like block a doorway, he may punch walls. Those things are often used as a silent threat or intimidation. So you may be into it with your significant other, or domestic violence doesn't even have to be intimate. It could be with family members, siblings, and other people as well that's close to you. So you may be in a situation where your significant other, y'all are having an argument and he's so mad at you to the point where he really wants to hit you, but his warning will be punching a wall. And that's him actually punching you without punching you, if you feel what I'm saying. That's how mad he really is, and the things that he really wants to do to you. But he'll go to jail for it, so he'll just take it out on the wall, instead of actually physically harming you. But when someone has that type of reaction, there's a thin line between that wall and you eventually. Because sometimes they'll get to the point where they just don't care and just go ahead and take it out on you physically. They also have they have something that's called reproductive abuse. So this is when men use pregnancy as a way to trap a woman so that she cannot leave. They're has been plenty of arguments, and you're threatening the man that you're going to leave them because of maybe like he's cheating, infidelity, or maybe he's not treating you worth a damn, and you just are fed up and want to leave. And they have this thing called the honeymoon phase, where he may give you a gift or tell you what you want to hear, and y'all end up in the bed, and him still remembering you threatening to leave him, and he may purposely get you pregnant. So there's also a thing called financial gatekeeping, and that is when a man is preventing you from working, or they're controlling every cent so that you cannot afford a bus ticket out. So he watches how you spend your money. He always asking questions about how much that costs, how much you get paid, where you work at, things like that, to get a sense of how much money you make, how many hours you work, and they calculate it, and things like that. They may do things like mess up your car so you can't go to work, or you'll miss a few days of work, and things like that, so that you may not make enough money to actually leave him or her. Now, another form of abuse is success sabotage. Basically, it's like they use a tactic where they'll fight right before a big meeting you have, or, because they'll like throw you off of your game, or they'll get sick, so you'll stay home and you won't end up going to that interview or going to that big meeting. Or you may be going to a meeting and you have to present a business proposal or a business plan to investors or your boss or colleagues, and you may look into your files and see that some of your files have been deleted, which sabotages your career, your success. And it's not that they're afraid of your failure. They're just terrified of your independence. They want you to depend on them. They cannot let you become bigger than them, because you may look at them as less of. Now, statistically, a rising trend, they're calling this a rising trend, a trend that as of 2026, the FBI reports that violent crimes within domestic relationships have seen a steady increase over the last 5 years, with over 1.1 million victims reported. Remember, we was talking about reported. Imagine the number that's unreported. And most of them will probably be men, because most men do not report it. The global total, globally, nearly 1 in 3 women, which is approximately 840 million, have experienced physical or sexual partner violence in their lifetime. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about Valentine's Day. Now, Valentine's Day often creates the perfect storm for abuse. There's a thing called love bombing. Now, abusers may use this holiday to overperform. Now, they'll overperform their love with expensive gifts and affection to manipulate or to reset the cycle of abuse, a tactic known as a love bomb. They'll use alcohol, usually with increased alcohol consumption during Valentine's Day celebrations, are documented triggers for domestic incidents. They also use the isolation factor. Seeing idolized version of love everywhere makes survivors feel more alone, making it harder for them to reach out for help. They see all this love and affection on social media with their family and their peers, and they've been abused. But with so much love out here that they're witnessing, they rather just be quiet about it. I often talk about domestic violence in adults, but this last year alone, 70,000 teenagers were victims of domestic violence as well. And those are only the numbers that are reported. So, we're going to talk about some red flags. Abusers, they often push for serious commitment. Like one red flag will be someone that wants to pressure you into moving in or getting married or getting joint bank accounts early on in a relationship. They aren't being swept off their feet. They're being rushed into a position where they have fewer exit routes. They also have a red flag that's called digital tethering. Now, in 2026, this is a version of stalking. And I am a victim of this, and I've been the abuser of this as well. I guess, I mean, I'm just going to be honest. I didn't even know this was a thing until I did research on domestic violence and this digital tethering. So it says that in the 2026 version of stalking, it's the "where are you" text, the digital demand for location sharing, or getting angry if a message isn't answered within 3 minutes. It isn't checking in because you care, it's a digital leash used to ensure that you never feel alone or independent. I can kind of understand that because, I mean, I don't know. I kind of feel, I don't know. I guess because I've been on both sides. You feel me? Like when I was in a relationship and my dude would check up on me and be like, "Where you at? And what you doing?" All the time. I just figured that he did care. But statistically, it's not that he cares, it's that he's trying to keep up with you and let you know, like reminding you, hey, you got a man, and let you know you belong to me. And you're basically reporting to them every couple of minutes, and that's a red flag that person can be controlling. Now sometimes we often call it clinging. I mean clingy. But in 2026, that shit is called stalking now. I guess I'm a stalker because I don't know. Whenever I miss my dude, like I'm going, what you doing and where you at? I know for a fact I'm real, I'm super clingy. But I'm not trying to be abusive and then I just be, whatever. But I don't know, I do be overdoing it and stuff too because like it said, like they get angry if your message isn't answered within 3 minutes. And I do. Like I'm not even gonna lie about it. I'm very honest, like I do. Like I feel like 3 minutes is still too long. I don't understand that you busy. Like because that's supposed to be the most important thing in your life. So I guess I'm a red flag too, just keeping it real. I'm just too real, raw and uncut. Yeah. I mean, that's a red flag on me, but everything else good, But it's a little red flag. I just. Anyway, now here comes the cycle of violence. Now, the cycle is when you have tension building, you have the incident, you have the reconciliation, you have the calm. Yeah. And it's like with the tension building, it's kind of like you're walking on eggshells. It's like the silence before the storm. The incident is the actual abuse. So that could be physical, verbal, or emotional. So Your attention is building, you're walking on eggshells, something is bound to happen and you're worrying about it, and then next thing you know, something does happen, and it could be emotional, it could be verbal, it could be abusive, and then you guys are going to do the reconciliation, which is also called the honeymoon phase, where you send flowers, you might cry, you may say you'll never do it again. And then the calm is a period where things seem back to normal until the tension builds up again. And this is what you call a toxic relationship. And I see this a lot because, you know what? It's like, for some reason, I know a lot of people, um, they love to break up to make up, because I think the makeup feels so good. You get a chance to sit there and talk about your problems. You get a chance to create new boundaries and more understanding, instead of just communicating and say, hey, baby, I have this on my mind or whatever. Even if you guys are doing good, it doesn't mean you can't sit down with your partner and let them know that you've been thinking and you got other things on your mind and you want to set more boundaries because your relationship has grown or is not growing, and you want to make sure y'all are still on the same track. It takes communication. You don't have to blow up, or um, you don't have to create a problem just so y'all can fight and then to get to reconciliation so that y'all can be okay. All you have to do is just make sure that you guys are constantly communicating and everything is consistent within your boundaries and your understanding from the communication and the agreement you guys had. That's all you gotta do. I'm very big on communication. There's also another form of abuse. um it's like when they isolate you from your family and friends. They may be like, you don't need to be around them because they don't understand our love. Or if you go and be around them, it's just like you're choosing them over me because they don't like me. They'll start forbidding you from seeing your family. They'll start pointing out flaws in your friends or picking a fight right before you're supposed to go hang out with them or go to a family event. This is like systematically removing your support system so that when the abuse occurs or escalates, you don't have nobody to run to because you've cut them off. They're not even going to want to see you come. They're not even going to want to help you because they're not going to want to be bothered with it. And remember, I was telling you guys about the financial control, and this is they could use a strategy like keeping you from working, which is managing your money, or making you ask for an allowance if you don't work. So if you don't have a go bag or cash of your own or in your own account, you're like a prisoner to their wallet and they have control over you. Which is, they say that's like one of the number one things that make survivors and victims go back to their partners, because their partners are more than likely financially stable. So even if they leave, they realize like, hey, I wasn't living in that house, I wasn't eating as good, I wasn't looking as good, and all these things. I still need this, I still need that. And when I was with them, even though I was abused by them, they still took good care of me. So therefore, they'll go back to their abusers because of financial support. Now, I'm going to tell you guys a story. Now, this comes from one of my homegirls. I'm not saying no names, so it is anonymous. But this is what I call the Valentine reset. So it was like every Valentine's Day for the past 3 years, their partner will buy them the most expensive jewelry in the store after a month of screaming and isolation. They call it the reset. The gift was a physical contract, and if she accepts the necklace, you'll agree to forget the bruises. By March, the jewelry is usually sold or broken during the next outburst. So the thing is like he would shower her with so much like expensive jewelry and gifts. I mean, shoes, clothes, all this shit for Valentine's Day. But by the time March come, the shit bleached, it broke. He don't took it back, and it's it's abuse all over again. But he always uses Valentine's Day to shower her, and this is his way of saying, "Hey, I love you." And but is it really love? Because within a couple of weeks you're going to be back abusing me, and then you're tearing up and taking back things that you bought me on Valentine's Day. So another example, well, another red flag is called a digital leash. It is kind of like the digital tethering, but this is called the digital leash. Now, this is like a modern day control, where, like, I heard from someone that said their partner demanded their location like 24/7 as a safety measure because they love them so much. But the moment they went to the grocery store that wasn't on the approved route, and I mean, I'm not saying that it had to be approved, but say for instance, if you're talking to your mate and you're like, "Hey babe, I'm about to go to Hibbits, and I'm gonna go to my mom's house, and I'm gonna, head back to the house." They're sitting there timing how long, from where you are to your mom's house to Hibbits, and they're like, "Damn, they should have been back by now." So they're gonna call you and be like, "Hey, where you at?" And you talking about you at the grocery store. You feel what I'm saying? And they're blowing up your phone because, hey, this wasn't the approved route. This is going over the time in my mind. I felt like you should have been back to me. God forbid you're not answering that phone. And you're only in the grocery store, but God forbid you're not answering that phone. Now they're calling your phone like 50 times because you should have been back home to them. It is not a safety net. They're not doing it for your safety. Yeah, you could be concerned for their safety, but that's only 1%. And 9 times out of 10, it's you in a cage. It's like controlling their every move, being aware of everywhere they go. And if they're not in the place where they got permission, and it's not even like real permission when I say permission, but I mean, if they haven't checked in, it's a problem. If they're not answering their phone, it's a problem. That is a red flag. And when you have red flags like this, these are people that have control issues. And people that have control issues, if they're not in control, they usually lash out with anger, which leads to abuse. Because when they're angry, what are they going to do? Are they going to throw something? Are they going to choke you? Are they going to put you in the hospital? What are they going to do? Are they going to punch a hole in the wall, which is another form of abuse, of intimidation? You know? I have some questions. You guys can comment below. You can inbox me if you would like to talk about it, or you could just ask yourself the question, or ask, your friends this question. But does your partner joke about your insecurities in front of others, then tell you you're being too sensitive when you get upset? Now, I've been through this before. We could be sitting around family members and friends, and then they'll just blurt out an insecurity that I have, letting everybody know what I'm insecure about, which makes me feel like the smallest thing in the room. This is them showing you that they have control of you around your peers. My second question: do you find yourself deleting text messages from friends or family because you're afraid of how your partner will react if they see them. You could be sitting here making plans with your friends, and you don't want your partner to know about it because you know they're going to question your every move. They're going to want to know that they're going to want to go ahead and start forming their control over that day. You could be venting to your friend. It don't even have to be about your significant other. It could just be you venting to your friend because that's what friends for, your family, because that's what family is for. You may have a plan that you're working on as far as like a business adventure or an idea. You may not even be comfortable with your partner seeing those text messages because you feel like they may try to sabotage it. I would like to know. Now, we've peeled back the layers today, and I know it's heavy. If you're listening to this from the bathroom floor, a parked car, or a bed you don't feel safe in, the version of you that survived today is a warrior. Domestic violence thrives in the dark, but today we turned the lights on. You are not defined by the names they call you or the control they try to exert. You are defined by your breath, your heartbeat, and your right to a life that doesn't hurt. Valentine's Day is one day. Your safety is a lifetime. This episode was your wake up call. Let it be the last time you choose silence over your own soul. The resources are in the show notes. The exit plan starts with one secret, safe conversation. You are worth the rescue. You are worth the peace. And you are more powerful than any person trying to break you. I am Dearica, and this is a Real Raw and Uncut. I'll see you next time. Bye. If you or anyone has experienced domestic violence, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. Or you can text START to 88788. They also have a domestic violence hotline for Strong Hearts Natives. Now, this is specifically for Native Americans, and that number is 1-844-762-8483. That's 1-844-762-8483. They also have a teen support helpline. Text LOVE IS, that's LOVEIS, 222522. That's LOVE IS 222522. I am your host, Dearica, and this is The Real Raw and Uncut. I'll see you next time.